Hi, I'm Joe, and in the last programme you saw me do this painting to the halfway point. Well, now we're going to get on and finish it. And I've noticed the pontoons are looking a bit grey and pale. That happens sometimes when you start to put the stronger colours on. So I'm going to tone them up a bit, just with a little bit of grey, make them a little bit stronger, and then I can do the posts. The posts are in front of them, so I've got to do the pontoons first. Here goes, just touch in a little bit more colour onto all of them, and they'll stand out. That just creates a little bit more contrast for the painting. There we go, right the way across. And then here, where they're up against the intense glare, they're going to pale off a little bit. So I've just added a little bit of water to the colour. Don't need to be desperately accurate with them. So that's the pontoons done. And now we're going to start with the posts. And for this, I'm going to see if I can use one of these little flat brushes, very small flat brush. I think that's a 3mm, and they're very useful for doing things like windows or straight parallel things like posts. Now what we do is we just chisel it into the top and then just drag it down. Now the posts are basically tree trunks, small tree trunks, so it doesn't matter if they're not dead straight. That one needs to be a little bit stronger. Two ways of doing that. I could just go over them again, or I can just touch in the edge using a pointed brush. So I've just touched the edge in on the shadow side, and that creates a post. I'm just going to go over that again like that. And we'll put them all in. There we go. All different lengths and sizes. And one of the major features of Venice, flatten off the brush, chisel the top in like that. One feature of posts is the tops are flat because that's where they've been banged into the ground, into the mud. So making the tops of the posts flat gives them that little bit of an edge for realism. So here we go, nice dark blue, and this is actually made of cobalt blue, burnt sienna, and that's the post that boat is tethered to. I'm going to darken the bottom of the post with a little tiny bit of Payne's grey. There we go. In fact, I can add that up almost to the sky. And I can go down the sides of some of these posts just to darken them up and blend the colour in again. That's it. Now here I'm going to use the cobalt blue burnt sienna grey mix, and then I'm going to add some dark straight away. There we go. Here goes the dark. So that beefs it up a little bit more. Against the sky, they tend to be paler. That's an optical effect. It's a real effect that you can observe. So where does this post go? This comes right down over this side of the boat. So darken that up. That's it. With the posts done, I'm going to put a tiny little bit more detail on the distant building, and then we're going to do the reflections. We've done one layer of water, and the next bit will be the reflections. But first, I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of detail into the distance. There we go, a few windows. And you can just drag the brush, creates a little bit of texture, a little bit of dry brush. Put a tiny bit more shadow onto the side of the tower. And Well, there we are. That's the boats done. The posts and the pontoons in the background. I've just got one more post to do, and then we're going to finish the painting off by putting the reflection in, taking off the masking, and then a little bit of tidying up. So first, I'll get the post in. There's one more to do, and it's just here. There we go. And before that dries, just going to darken up the base. There we go. Now we're going to do the reflections. And the key is the colour. Mix plenty of colour. And the colours I'm going to use are phthalo green, quinacridone magenta, we've got phthalo blue, and we've got a little bit of burnt sienna. That's a lot of colours to put together in one go. And what I'm after is a blackish blue. So I'll just show you those colours. That's the phthalo green, quinacridone magenta, the phthalo blue, and the burnt sienna. So I'll put that back over there, and we'll start to put some of those colours together. I want to get a little bit of Naples yellow, and I'm going to make a lighter version of this colour, and that's probably the colour I'm going to use. We'll see how it goes. Now, as well as that, I need intense dark reflections reflecting the gondola holes, and they're going to be done with Payne's grey on its own. So I'll just get some Payne's grey and make sure I've got plenty of colour. There we go. The key to this is having plenty of colour already mixed, and whatever you do, don't run out. Now I'm going to start putting these reflections on. So we're going to just start to run the colour in and see what we get. Very loose brush strokes. There we go. Now we're going to put this boat reflection in. This is one of the most important ones, and just work very, very loosely. So here we go. Plenty of colour, plenty of water, and work loosely. Don't paint literal boat reflections. Let the brush do what it wants. Now the edge of the reflection, I've got this lighter colour I've mixed just now, and we're just going to run some of that into the edges, and that should give us where the sun is penetrating into the reflections from the edge. There we go. Now we're going to go over to the next reflection. It's the next large boat reflection, and again very, very loose. The ripples are small in the distance, and then in the foreground they open out and become very large and ragged. So there we go. Very loose, rough and ready shapes. And I'll just put some extra darks into the water in between. There we go. We'll put the post reflections in. Incredibly loose and ragged and broken. And in the foreground they open right out and loosen up completely. Now we'll do this one. Linear in the distance. The reflections are much more liney. Got this post reflection as well, and that opens out as it comes into the foreground. And keep these reflections loose. So there we go. And then then as they come into the foreground, they open right out. And they're quite strange, abstract shapes. And the less you mess about with them, the better. Just putting a little bit of that paler colour with the Naples yellow into the sunlit edge. And the same here, just a tiny bit. There's more to be gained from leaving it than messing it about. We've got a little bit of a reflection crossing over there. And now we'll just finish off with these. And these are just very, very ragged linear reflections. I'm going to get the brush to point really well, and all the time I'm making sure that the paint is strong and fluid. So look at that. The brush just lends itself to painting water. And now there are a few paler reflections, so I'm going to get a paler version of this mix and put those in, and they're just ragged reflections between the boat reflections. Again, whatever you do, don't overdo it. And then finally, I'm going to get the Payne's grey, and I'm going to touch that into the bottom of the boat, so the boat actually joins onto the reflections. The boats actually join onto the reflections. Here, I'm actually darkening the hull up and making it extremely strong and dark, and there's no gap between the hull and the reflections. It's as though the hull itself is breaking up and disappearing into the water. Again, same again with this one. We've got the hull and its reflection practically joined together. And this one, very, very strong. So just a few darks added here and there. And we'll finish this off. Very, very strong paint. I'm not frightened to use intense dark in my paintings. There we are, intense dark colour